that we must know what's going on. And right now the kids are not talking to us. When they do talk, they tend to talk to their parents or their friends, not to school people. And those of you who are SROs have a unique position in your schools. Those of you who are not SROs or are from towns that do not have SROs, you will, assuming this legislation passes, you will be working much more closely with your local schools. That is not going to be an option any longer. It is time to bring education and law enforcement together, and that is one of the goals of this legislation. So we are all going to be talking to kids, and you have an advantage. You have a major advantage in that you are an adult, you are somebody responsible who can help kids, but because you are not directly employed by the school, the kids see SROs as a way to talk, as a person they can talk to. And that information, as everybody here knows, is the basis of all public safety, is information. So that is information we have to begin to get. You can see that it's particularly an issue with the boys. The girls were slightly more willing to talk, but the boys were not talking at all. When you did report, we pulled out the few kids who told us that they did report, and we asked them what happened after they reported. And most of them said nothing. Nothing happened. Now, that's not always the case, as you all know, because of confidentiality laws. Sometimes truly no action is taken, but sometimes action is taken, but it's simply not evident that it's been taken. But either way, it's a problem. And we can't keep going along saying, oh, confidentiality laws, so I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to, those days are gone. We can't do this anymore. We have to begin to be much more transparent about how we handle these issues because these children are not getting what they need from us. So what do? Well, if no action is taken, we have to standardize actions so that no child falls through the cracks. I think that we have seen in this past year what happens when children fall through the cracks. And that's where we don't want to go. If, of course, the only issue is that we're not perceiving things, that people aren't perceiving what's happened, the answer is really still the same, that we have to have standard abstract procedures. So for example, the school goes through a process, and at some point in that process, they're either going to have to consider whether or not they need to consult with law enforcement. And everybody who reports should know that that step is going to be considered as part of the process. It has to be very, very clear, and that's part of what this law is intended to do, is it's intended to require schools to develop these procedures. The good news is that kids who reported found good feedback. That's the really good news. Because years ago they would tell us things like, oh, adults would laugh at me, or adults would tell me it was no big deal, or adults would tell me to just suck it up, or whatever. That doesn't seem to be happening anymore. Just a few issues, and then I know I have to wrap it up. One big issue is the dramatic escalation of minor in-school issues. This is a big problem that we're seeing primarily with girls. Before the web, this means that these are minor altercations that would have died out. Where two girls get into a snit over something, and it just would have died away. But now what happens is they get on their mobile computers, right? We're not calling it a cell phone. They get on their mobile computers, and they either go to Facebook, because of course they can do that, or they start texting their friends, and they start mobbing, either on Facebook or through texting. And the whole issue escalates, and the fact that they don't have to do it face-to-face feeds the whole thing. It just makes the entire issue blow up. And then you've got a group fight on the school grounds, or you've got somebody making a death threat, or you've got somebody who cuts school and goes home, or you've got these kinds of problems which now are much more serious. There seems to be a trend towards anonymous chat, but there is a feeling that this is just a flash in the pan, and it may be. Right now it's sort of stylish. The two sites we see a lot of this on are Omegle and Chatroulette, and you've probably heard of Chatroulette. Chatroulette is preferable because it has video. Kids like it better. And to be honest, Chatroulette, the way these work is that you don't log in or anything. You just go to the website, your webcam clicks on, and you just hit another person at random, could be anywhere in the world. We don't see a lot of bullying on these sites because generally speaking, you're always paired up with a stranger. But I'm sure, since you're all in law enforcement, I have to spell it out for you what you see a lot of, if you get my drift. And you see a lot of that. So parents should be aware of this before they let their 11-year-olds go on chat roulette about what they're very, very likely to see there. Problems on Facebook seem to be gravitating less towards what goes on the wall, which is the area where people leave comments, and seems to be gravitating more towards the applications that are done on Facebook. This is just an example of an application. It's called FriendFacts, and this is an application that goes through your friends list and it creates poll questions about your friends and sends them out to everybody on the list. The kids don't write the poll questions. The program writes the questions. But it's a very insidious program because what it does is when the kids get it, they feel that they have to take the poll and answer the questions. Because by answering questions about another kid, they get these virtual silver pieces, which sounds really dumb because who cares if it's virtual? But it's not actually, because then you can spend your virtual silver when the poll comes out about you, you can spend your virtual silver to see who is saying what about you. And so this application is insidious. It makes the kids feel like they have to play it, because if they don't play it and they don't answer the questions, they won't get the virtual silver, they won't know who is saying what about them. But it really feeds into these problems. So if you're talking to kids about a problem, a fight, or some other issue, a threat, and they are in a feud with each other, one of the possibilities is that one of these kinds of issues began it all. It's very, very common. You may have heard that there was a suicide associated with Formspring in New York on Long Island about 2 weeks ago. A girl was on Formspring. Formspring is very similar to Honesty Box. The difference is that Formspring can be done either through Facebook or independently. And these are basically programs that allow you to put a box on your wall where people can type anything they want anonymously. And it really begs the question, and I was talking with a girl about this who had Honesty Box on her wall, and I said to her, I really don't understand why somebody would set themselves up to get this kind of abuse. If you put something on you're putting it on your site voluntarily. You know, people could type anything they want. Like, you're asking for people to pick on you. You're asking for this. And she said, well, I never thought of it that way. And she said, you know, I just thought of it as a way, like maybe I would want honest feedback sometimes, and this would be a good way to get it. And I said to her, take Honesty Box off your wall, and if you want honest feedback, go ask your mother. She will give you honest feedback. And, you know, that's how you do these things.